Okay, so the next step of the process here to get to the manifold, because that needs to be cleaned, is to remove the carburetor. I've already disconnected some of the hoses, some of the vacuum hoses. In order to get the carburetor off, we got to disconnect the wire up front here from the solenoid. I've also got 4 screws, 2 in the front of the carburetor and then 2 in the back. So that has to come off, and then we've got the cable that connects to the accelerator pedal. I've got a bolt here, or a nut here that has to come off, and a nut and a bolt here that has to come off, and that will just basically disconnect that side. And then on the other side, I've got the fuel line that has to come out. And then so I'll take that off and set that aside, and we'll of course have to clean up the carburetor. It's running well at this point. I don't have any concerns with it, so it's just going to be a cosmetic cleanup. I'll also look to see if there's any obvious areas of leakage or seepage, and replace any gaskets that I may need to replace. Alright, to get the accelerator cable off, I've got 2 7/16 inch connections. I'm going to start with that. Notice also I've put a rag over the head here so that if anything drops, it doesn't drop inside the engine. And I don't want to get messy. Alright, so that's off. Almost. All right. Connect that back onto the cable so I don't lose it. And set that aside. Take the electrical connection off, and then also lay that aside. I'll take the fuel connection off now. You know what? I'm not going to use this wrench. I'm going to use a tube wrench. Put that off to the side. I don't want to turn that or round off that brass fitting. Alright. Well, I'm going to need some counterforce there. See if I got the right size there. Oh, looks like a 1 inch. Okay. Yep, 1 inch. There it goes. All right. There's one other connection I missed. There's a screw connection here that I got to take off as well. So, all right, that works. Pull that out. Okay, good. Next, get that out of the way. All right, unscrew the screw. It's a Phillips head and it's corroded. Yeah. All right. Well, is there a connection here? I think I'm gonna leave that in place. There's a little cotter pin holding that in place. So I'm going to pop that out. I need needle nose pliers. Screw it. Jeepers. All right, I'm going to sit and think about this one for a minute. All right, so I was able to get the connection undone with that pin using a pair of needle nose pliers. It just took a little bit of patience and something you can't see on the film. So that's disconnected. Now I've got everything else. All I need to do is take off, hopefully, the 4 bolts. Those weren't very tight. Man, it's cold in Florida today. 37 degrees this morning. What the heck? Nice long one. There we go, number 2. All right, let's see if I did it. like everything is gonna come off. Woohoo! How about that? Lay this over on the bench. Okay, so I've got everything covered up now so that I don't get anything falling into the engine. Next step, before I take the manifold off, I have to, or the next steps, I'm going to drain the radiator so that there's no fluid inside the manifold, and in the back of the engine here I'm going to take off the coil and remove the distributor, and also the oil pressure sensing, the oil pressure line. I'll have to remove that as well. Other than that, I think that'll do it. So, looking forward to getting to the next steps here. Alright, so to disconnect the coil, this is actually just slipped in here. I'm missing a connection here. I'm going to take all of the spark plug wires off and coil wire so you can see it better. Lay those aside. I gotta take the distributor out anyways, so I'll lay those aside too. Alright, to get the to disconnect the coil, it takes a 3/8 inch wrench. There's two wires that are be removed from that, and these are on nice connections here that make it easy to get them off. And that's it. Just like the county fair, nothing to it. Alright, and then just pull the coil out. Yeah. Maybe not. And then I need a 7/16 inch wrench. To disconnect the coil from the coil. Okay, that one's kind of stuck. I'm going to use a ratchet. There it goes. And on this side. Of course. Remove the distributor cap. Huh. That's a 1/2 inch bolt on that side. I'm just going to leave the screws in place there. Alright, and then next is the distributor. Now to take that off, I've got a mechanical tachometer, so it's a mechanical drive. So I got to remove that, and then I've got to remove the hold down clamp on this side. Not lose that. That mechanical connection is a nice knurled. And that's it. That's that. Then I need my 1/2 inch wrench on this side. Oh, not half. 9/16. For sure that was a 1/2 inch. And that just slides back. There's any other connections on that, so then take it from the other side. There it goes. Had to pull up. All right, pull up and twist, and that's the end of that. Drip a little. There we go. The last major thing I had to do before working on taking the intake manifold off is to drain the radiator and also drain the block. You can see it's still draining there, but the reason for doing that is if you don't, you'll end up getting antifreeze inside your engine. Alright, so to take the intake manifold off, there are 12 bolts around the edges here. They're all 3/8 inch cap screws. 2 of them are shouldered cap screws, the ones that are used on the lifting eye. All the others are just regular screws. That was a little stiff. That one's real loose, or relatively loose. Okay. I'm going to take the center ones off with an open end wrench. The carburetor boss is interfering. Well, I had no problem getting 11 of the 12 bolts out. This one, I kept on spinning it. It's really tight in there, as you can see. Had to degrease around it. There's a bunch of buildup, but it's still the points were rounded off, probably from previous attempts here. And then what I ended up using was a 14mm socket, and it fit. So that's what worked. The 9/16 just wasn't doing it. All right, so the next step in the process is to use a pry bar, formerly known as a flathead screwdriver. As you can see, I've used it for that purpose for a long time. And basically just go around the edge and pry up. There it goes. Okay, so it doesn't take too much. It's usually easiest if you do it on the ends. Get more leverage that way. And then basically just lift it off. I'm going to put this over to the side here. I left the intake in, or the water inlet here for a reason. I got something to hold on to. And then just pry it off because this is really heavy. And lift. Lift and separate. There we go. Okay, you can see I've probably some of the reasons why it was leaking. So my gaskets are broken. I'm just going to remove the obvious stuff out of here. I'm likely just going to take the whole engine out from this point on and tear it down, but that's okay. I'm just going to clean this up, get the crap out of here. That's okay. Actually, that's the valve cover gasket. All right. I'll leave that all in place. Oh, I got some antifreeze. Great. I'll get that out of there before it gets down into the sump. Okay, so that's the end of the top end here, other than the heads. So we'll go from here. Well, the manifold's been in the soup here for probably about 24 to 32 hours. Took over several days. I don't run this when I'm not around. So I think it's ready to come out. What I'm going to do is pull it out here and then pressure wash it and see how much will come off. If need be, I'll put it in one more time. Well, that's post pressure wash. That looks pretty darn good. There's some small remnants of paint here and there, but I think that'll be just fine. We'll let this dry out, then I'll wipe it down with some acetone or lacquer thinner or something to just prep it a little bit, and then I'll paint it. Okay, before I start doing the final prep for paint, I'm going to clean up, or I'm in the process of cleaning up the underside of the manifold and making sure that all the sealing surfaces are clean. Started off with just removing all the excess goo from the old gaskets. I used a combination of some wire wheels and a little bit of sandpaper. You can see that wire wheel's about gone. But just getting rid of that kind of stuff out of the or off of the sealing surfaces. And then I used a little bit of 200 grit sandpaper, and then finally some 400 grit sandpaper as well, just to get the surfaces cleaned off and nice and smooth.
Okay, next step I'm going to do is to clean off all of the rust, which you can see on the other side. Let me flip it over. That resulted from being in the electrolytic bath. So that's all flash rust that I'm going to be taking care of, and I'll do that using OSPO. So I'll wipe down all the surfaces with OSPO to basically neutralize the rust and convert it into a iron phosphorus type of sealant. That's got to sit for 24 hours for the full conversion process to go. And once that's done, I'll clean it off. Okay, so for the use of OSPO, you don't want to do this inside. It's got a little bit of an odor to it. And you also don't want to do this over a concrete floor. This OSPO, it's phosphoric acid or diluted phosphoric acid, and it will eat concrete. So I'm going to do this outside, and basically all you need to do is use a rag. Make sure you're wearing hand protection, but with a rag, just apply it and let it sit. So I'm going to do the bottom first, and then I'll flip it over and do the top side. This side doesn't have to be perfect, but I like it to look nice. At least I know it looks nice when I'm trying to build it. The asphalt's not cheap either. So you want to be economical about it. That cleaned up pretty nicely. Got rid of a lot of the crap off of the underside. Now we'll flip it over and do the top side. I haven't been able to get this spring mechanism off yet. It's stuck on, so I got a little bit more work to do. The OSPO will not hurt that, so I'm just going to use it or apply it as needed. Try not to kick this thing over. That would be bad. Places are hard to reach them. Stand a little bit. A chip brush works pretty well too. A lot better than a rag. Things you learn. Okay, so this is how it looks now. It's still in the process of drying, but you can see the rust is covered and it's starting to turn black. You can see a little bit of the orange still left here. I knew that was there, but it won't hurt anything once we get primer and everything on it. But it looks like it's doing its job. Again, it's got to dry for 24 hours as a minimum. So once it, I'm going to leave it out here for a little bit longer. Wait for some of the puddles to go away, and I'll take it back inside the shop. But I think it's going the way it's supposed to. On the intake manifold, in order to get it ready for priming and painting, the black coating that came from the phosphating process, basically using OSFO, needs to be cleaned up. There are some areas of some caking of the remnants of the reaction. So in order to do that, I'm just going to rub it down with a 3M pad and just make it smooth and take all the flaking off as I go along. I'll do a little bit on camera and I'll finish it up off camera. You get the idea. About half an hour from now, I'll be done. For all the gasketed surfaces, I'm going to again go over it with some rough or coarse sandpaper, and then use the 2000 grit wet and dry sandpaper as well. Boy, it sure isn't hard to see where the water sealing surfaces are. Certainly is a lot of pitting in these surfaces. So sanding it down the best I can. The gasket and RTV will take care of the rest there. The first rough with the coarse sandpaper looks pretty good here. So there aren't any major high or low spots, maybe a couple here there. But once I go over it with the wet and dry sandpaper, it should be all right. Yeah, again, the water passages have more pitting around the sealing surfaces than the gas and air. Okay, got everything all cleaned up now. Now I'm going to just wipe it all down with some mineral spirits just to get all the dust off of it. I'll also use the mineral spirits just prior to doing the priming, just to make sure that everything is clean before primer. See how nicely that shows afterwards. Nice looking surfaces. All right, I'm going to do the rest of this off camera. Today's the big day. Time to paint. I've got all my primer, top coat, and clear coat ready to go. Everything's been masked off that I don't want paint on, and wiped down with mineral spirits. So everything's clean and ready to go. Looking forward to this. Oh, and it's above 70 degrees for the first time in about 3 weeks in Florida. Can you believe that? Okay, so I'm going to follow the directions on the label and we'll work this through. Reading the instructions on the can, I'll be applying the primer coat in three stages, 2 light coats and 1 medium coat, about 10 minutes apart. And then once that's done, I'll apply the top coat, the orange, also in 3 different stages with 10 minutes apart. But that's got to be applied within 1 hour of the last coat of the primer. And then once that's done, I'll apply the gloss, the clear gloss. So this is probably going to take about 2.5 hours to complete. I'll show you a couple of the stages as I'm going along, but I'm not going to film this for 2.5 hours. The coats are to be applied in even strokes, 8 to 10 inches from the target. Okay, that's the first coat. I'll do the same thing for the next one, or the next 5. I am using a timer. This is what it looks like after 3 coats. This one is almost completely dry. That looks pretty good too. Intake's a little harder to get to. A lot more nooks and crannies. Some things still drying in the corners here. It's been about 15 minutes at this point for drying. But everything is well covered. Getting a couple bugs here and there. Don't worry, they aren't going to go for long for the ride. Now it's time for 2 light coats of orange and 1 medium coat of orange. hard getting the nooks and crannies. This is the final coat of the top coat. Looks pretty good for somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Still have the clear coat to go. So I gotta let this sit for about 30 minutes. So that one looks pretty good. Nice deep color. Paint one on nicely. I think I got everything. Got a couple waves here and there, but there's one. A little drip. Darn it. I'm sure it was perfect from the factory. Yeah, but everything looks good. Relatively pleased. I've already put one coat of the gloss on. I'm putting the second coat on now. Got a bug. A little bit windy out. One final coat to go. Well, I think that looks pretty good. That should look really nice once it's put back on the engine. Got a couple of spots that need to touch up a little bit. My masking wasn't all that great in the front there, so a little bit of that. And you can see it with the light. Yeah, the screw head there. But other than that, I think that'll look pretty.